Welcome to the Home Services Home Show, where you'll learn a lot that you need to know.
And a whole lot you don't.
Yeah.
Well,
There's something I want to touch on right away here. Last show that we put out, and we put some clips out, and we talked about ducts in the attic, not quack ducts, but heating and air conditioning ducts. And I talked about a job that we had to deal with.
Yep.
I'd like to preface it too, because I think the clip got edited a little funny, where I talked a lot about the fact that why would you run ducts through the attic? Makes no sense.
well, it doesn't.
For us in Wisconsin.
Correct.
We are in Wisconsin. And in Wisconsin, we have
Hot and cold.
basements.
Right.
So we run everything through the basement. So we're not typically. So on this job that I was talking about, they couldn't cool their home. They couldn't cool 2 rooms in their home. And they had hundreds of feet of ductwork running through this attic and an air conditioning handler, like on the very, 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 very far end of the house, actually almost in the garage. And before the cool air could get to the rooms, it was coming out at 80 degrees. They were trying to get it to 72. Of course, it didn't work. Well, we made I will say we kind of made a mistake in that when we did the editing, we took a photo.
Sure.
And it had nothing to do with the work that got done. It had nothing to do with that job.
Right.
It was just a photo to show people an example of an air conditioning handler
In the attic.
Sure. Because honestly, we don't have a lot of those around here. And small town Wisconsin folks never really thought that this show would get millions and millions of views and comments and questions and viewers from all over the country. I mean, we might be worldwide. I'm not sure.
Worldwide.
So anyway, what I wanted to do was take a second and that the photo that we used, it was actually a clip of a very nicely done work.
Great install.
It was a beautiful install. It was showing a air conditioning handling unit in an attic, not the work I was talking about. Unfortunately, there were some small stickers on that unit, and the owners of that company could make it out. I couldn't make it out. It was blurred. But then once the owners got a hold of us, it definitely was their company. And they're a company called Kilowatt Heating and Air Conditioning. They are out of the LA area. I looked them up. Couple hundred reviews, 4.9 star. Obviously,
Good family-owned business.
Yes. Good family-owned company. I talked to the owner, and obviously, I mean, she was upset. And putting myself in her shoes, I completely understand why.
Right.
Again, never did we think that people in LA would be seeing this stuff.
Right. We're just trying to inform the Wisconsin people that deal with
that's all it was for us.
The heat and cold, hot and cold.
Yeah. This was really meant to be like a local podcast where we can get it out in the Green Bay and Madison area, and we can answer some questions and hit on what we do. And we talk about anything home improvement wise, construction wise, home science. But I wanted to apologize because it wasn't the work. We were not talking about that work in that photo.
Right.
So again, that was called Kilowatt. They were out of LA area, and I looked them up. Great reviews, obviously a great family run company. And took it down. But
we did.
It was great work. Again, I could see where the confusion was.
Sure. But we did get a lot of questions and comments about the topic we talked about, which we should probably hit on a little bit yet, because it did raise a lot of questions, and a lot of people really were kind of intrigued, which was
again, here in Wisconsin, we have basements.
Right.
We have, and a lot of people probably don't understand why we have basements. Why do we have basements?
Well, we can use a livable space.
It's more livable space, and it's cheap. It's cheap.
Fraction of the cost of building up.
It is way cheaper.
Correct.
But the real reason is because it gets really, 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 really cold.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't run water lines up through attics and walls, exterior walls in Wisconsin. They'll freeze. So water lines have to come in through the basement, up through interior walls in the house.
So we use the basement to have a conditioned space.
Correct.
Where all the utilities.
Below the frost line.
Correct.
It's below the frost line. We can put all that stuff down there, and in the winter it doesn't freeze. Yeah. And I truly believe it is a more efficient way to spread heat and cooling throughout the house as
Right.
well.
Yes.
But in areas where it stays typically warm all year, we don't have. Well, what was it? A couple years ago, Texas.
Yeah.
Freeze.
And it really wrecked their world.
Everybody has all their water lines running through the attic, and they all froze.
Millions of dollars of damage.
Millions and millions and millions of dollars with damage. So that is why we have basements in colder weather climates where it will freeze. We've got to run water lines. We see it actually happens all the time where people will have a water line that runs through an exterior wall.
It'll freeze up.
It freezes up instantly.
Yeah. We got to realize that in winter in Wisconsin, I mean, there's times we've had. I remember a couple years back, we had 50 days in a row. It never got above 0 for the high, right? And it's driving feet of frost into the ground. So
brought back bad memories.
Bad memories. Snowmobiling is fun for a small period of time, but not when it's that cold.
Oh,
it's crap.
That's a time when you go, why do I live here?
Right. Florida
It's
seems
horrible.
beautiful, or Texas, or Arizona.
When the only thing you can do is go from in your house to your car to wherever you're going, from wherever you went back into your car, back to your house.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. So, but we live in those scenarios, right? We have that super cold. That's the reason for the basement.
Our parents made bad decisions, and now we're here.
We grew up here. But we also have the hot too, right? So
summer's beautiful.
It's going to be
beautiful.
96 degrees on this coming week.
This whole week.
Yeah, it's hot. Right?
Hot. Yep.
So the way we build houses, we didn't necessarily think of all these things in the past, right? So when we talk about the ducts in attic, which we do see from time to time, it can be problematic, right? So I just want to run through some math with you, Andrew, and we talked about this off before we did the show. But think about it: if an air handler, an air conditioner is creating 55-degree air, right? It's going to try to pump it through a tube, and the attic is, let's say, 130 degrees, 140 degrees, right? You're talking a 70, 80-degree difference from inside that tube to the air that's out in that attic. Well, how do you insulate those pipes? They put a little wrapper on it, right? R3 and R6.
Insulated, flexible tube.
And it's not insulated well. So they have an R3 to R6 around that tube, separating 55-degree air from 130, 140-degree air. If I flip that around, in our homes we build them, we separate your indoor living area at 70 degrees from that same temperature with an R60.
He's talking about attic insulation.
Attic insulation.
Where we live.
Right.
R60, 18, depending on what you're using, 17 to 20 inches of insulation.
Right, separating 70-degree air from 130-degree air. But in that same duct in the attic, we're only using an R3 and maybe 1-inch insulation. It's kind of crazy, right? So ducts in attic in Wisconsin isn't the best scenario, but if you have them there, we can do it right. There's a way to deal with them, to seal them, to insulate them, to insulate around them. There's ways to deal with them, but the math and the science of it is you got to deal with them because just like in your scenario, if you're trying to get cool air to your room, you're not going to get it if it's going through a heater.
The best time to do it is when you build. But I guess I don't have a lot of experiences with homes down south. I don't know. I don't even really know how much insulation they're putting in the attic.
But think about it. So even those homes down south, if they don't get the real cold, the hot's worse than cold.
What I find is funny. Okay, so if you even look like online, they'll show a map of the United States with the recommended R value of insulation in your attic, and the further you go north, the thicker it's supposed to be.
Yep.
But yet, what we know about heat transfer is that more insulation's actually more important the hotter it gets.
Correct.
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
I think someone needs to take a good look at that.
Well,
what's more important in our winters is air sealing.
Correct.
Because through heat rising and stack effect, we can lose a lot more heat than we are with not enough insulation.
Correct.
But now in the summer, that's a
different deal.
Totally different deal.
Yeah, you can only take off so many clothes before you can't take any more clothes off, and
stuff gets weird.
Right? Wintertime you can always add clothes and turn up space heaters and that kind of stuff. But in the summertime, it's hard to get comfortable.
Right.
And I think, well, we know it. We sell more insulation in the summertime, like right now when it's hot and uncomfortable, than we probably do in the wintertime.
But so many people only think about it in the winter, which was just really funny.
Right.
I mean, I guess before I got into this business is probably when I really thought about it too.
Right.
But when you go into a home and you use a thermal imaging camera and it's 90 degrees outside and you point it at the ceiling and they've got 8 inches of insulation and that ceiling is 95 or 100 degrees and you're blowing 70-degree air into the room, it's never going to stop.
No.
It's never going to stop. It's never going to be comfortable. We actually just talked to a homeowner last week. They called in and we did some really nice work on their home, and they straight up told us our children can sleep upstairs now.
Yes, we gave them some of their house back.
They could not sleep in their upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
It was stifling hot all the time. They had one roll of the rolled pink stuff.
Yep.
Wasn't complete, wasn't intact. It was terrible. Now we get 90, 95, 100 degrees, and it's 85 degrees upstairs, and doesn't matter how much cool air you shoot up there.
Correct.
So,
and we fix those houses. People are grateful. I mean, they get some of their house back, and we hear it time and time and time again. And that's why the insulation business is kind of fun and rewarding, because we change people's lives the way they live it. Putting maintenance free gutters on is neat, right? They don't got to climb ladders, and people aren't falling off and dying, and that's neat, right? And we do roofing, and we do great roofs, and people don't have to worry about it. But when you can change someone's life in their house, that's to me, that's the best service we can do.
Mm-hmm.
We change their life inside their house.
Mm-hmm.
So
give mom and dad their bedroom back.
Correct. Keep the kids out of mom and dad's bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Way happier dad.
Very, very, very important. So, yeah, that's it for today.
Yeah. So I think if people have more questions on this, obviously Shane and Chase are doing a great job of sorting out questions and stuff. But if people have specific questions, they can call either the Madison office at Larson Home Services or my office up in Neenah, Keeney Home Services. Ask us the questions, and we can, someone needs to stop and have the conversation. We can.
Guys have all the tools, all the equipment to come into the home, and if you have a true problem, we're going to be able to figure out what it is, and better yet, let you know exactly what it's going to take to fix it.
Right. And that's the biggest part, is making the right choice to fix it right the first time, not Band-Aid it.
Typically not going to come in and say you need to add more insulation. That might be part of it, but it's always a very small part of it.
Right.
So
we can help you out.
Yep. So give us a call. Check us out at larsonhomeservices.com, keeneyhomeservices.com. And thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time.